So I got on Instagram and I said, hey, send a question, which is pretty normal. And I said the 7 or 8 that I get the most, I will answer here, and maybe with a little more depth. Because on Instagram, I really only have that one page that I can write. So these are the questions that were asked the most. This one's from Chelsea.Lene, and it was asked a bunch of times. How can I come work for you and your team? Now, I get this message a lot because I often say that I'm always open to hire somebody, but I'm never looking for anybody. And kind of a weird juxtaposition between those two things. I don't need anybody right now for my team, but if someone is like, hey, I have all these skills. I'm great at lighting. I'm great at editing. And I would like to come and work on your team. Is there any chance that you would look at me? I absolutely will. I get a lot of resumes from people going, I've never actually done anything in your area, but would you consider me because I'm really driven? Sadly, that answer is no, because there's a lot of really driven people. And my advice would be to find and learn and invest in a skill. Like if you wanted to come and work for me, it's not even just about radio. It'd be very little about radio, as a matter of fact. Like I don't pay the radio show. That's the company, which is why I don't pay the radio show bonuses, because we all get paid by the company. But like my personal team that I pay, and now that team has gotten a little larger, it's people like me, Brandon Ray, Reed, Kickoff Kevin in a capacity. You know, he does some hybrid work, both sides. You know, I have a full staff that works with me on projects outside of the radio show. And I'm always open to hire anybody. If you come and you say, I got this crazy good skill, I want to join the team, what do you think? I may not hire you full-time at first, but I'm always looking for somebody. But I'm never looking for anybody that just is a go-getter, because I don't need a go-getter. I got like 32 go-getters already. So that's the answer to that, and that is the question that I get the most. But my advice would be there is to go and develop a skill and then present that skill to whomever. It doesn't have to be me. I'm just using it because I get this question so much. Next question from Fire Nice 2012. Realistically, how much longer do you think you'll do the show? I think it's a great question. My easy answer is forever in some capacity. Now, God willing that I have the health to do it, I think I will do a version of whatever I'm doing forever because I enjoy doing it. I also think that's where my success comes from, is that I enjoy doing it. And I've never chased money. And I was talking with an artist friend of mine. We were talking about money. We were kind of having an existential crisis just on living in a creative space. And it's so much more unpredictable now than it's ever been. There is no chance to hit critical mass anymore, which I would say like 5 years ago, I was starting to hit that edge where I was hitting critical mass, meaning I was starting to flirt with actual fame. Never got famous. Like I never got to be that successful where everybody knew who I was. But I had a run of like 3 or 4 years where I was doing American Idol or Dancing with the Stars, and that was turning into my own TV shows on Nat Geo or Peacock. The radio show was still the biggest thing by far, and that was feeding the success of and I was in a lot of places. And I got very close to reaching that critical mass to where they could actually do research on me with Gen Pop. It's almost impossible to get to that point now because everything is so fractured. There are so many services. You don't have to have a TV show to be famous. In fact, what I've done over the past, I would say 2 years, is heavily invested into my own project and projects because this business is very fickle. They might like you today, they may not like you tomorrow, so they may fire you tomorrow, especially on television. I remember once talking to Ryan Seacrest, who's probably the most successful television person, well, alive right now, but maybe in history. I mean, time's different. Like Dick Clark was on for like 50 years. There were like 3 channels. But Ryan's approaching that now. And he was asking me kind of the same question, like, how long do you want to do this? And I said, I think forever. I believe we were both in Hawaii doing American Idol together. And he was like, man, always do radio. He said, because that's not fickle. He said, these television shows, new boss comes in, you're out. You know, these shows get picked up year to year. Like rarely are there 2 and 3 year deals on these TV shows. Like they're season to season. he was like, stay and focus so much on radio, which means audio, which means podcasting, which to me, that's all radio is like audio that comes from your phone. So when I say radio, that's what I mean. So I want to do this forever. However, and I talked about this in one of the last podcasts that I did, not the last one with John Fogerty, but the one before, I don't think I can go at this pace forever. Also, I do too many shows. I just do. Right now, I do too many shows. And I don't have to walk all the way through them, but the Bobby Bone Show, the couple of sports shows, this show, the interview show, I could keep going. There's no way that people want to listen to me that much. There's no chance. I don't want to listen to me that much. My wife doesn't want to listen to me that much. So I can't keep going at this pace because, one, I don't have the energy sometimes. And it's not just getting on a microphone and talking, but it's constantly having to think of new things for new shows and multiple new shows a day. And yeah, it's not working at the mill like my stepdad did. I get that. But it doesn't stop. I've got to always come up with ideas and then execute them, and sometimes not good. And I don't really have time to focus on how to get better at something because I got something else coming up. I can't go at this pace forever. But while the sun's out, I get a suntan. That's what we're doing right now. That's not really that saying. But forever, I hope. But also, I could be fired tomorrow and I would keep doing this. Like the great thing about now in the media is there aren't as many gatekeepers. And I wouldn't make as much money, at least not at first. But I would just flip up a camera, throw on a live, hit record on a little screen, and then you can put out a podcast and you have your audience. You'd have to rebuild some of your audience. But I think I'll do this in a capacity in perpetuity, hopefully forever. But that's the answer there. I still really enjoy. My favorite thing is doing the radio show. I don't like the hours of it. At times I feel like there are too many voices, too many microphones. Like that happens sometimes. But it's still my favorite thing to do. But thank you for the question. From ChristianWolf.89. When you do the show from home, why is only Amy and Eddie there? And I got a few of these, and I think this is a great question. And I don't think about this stuff because I know the answers, but I'm glad you asked this. So at my home studio, there are only so many seats. We basically have 4 places for a microphone. We don't even really have 4 for a camera. We kind of have 2 places for a camera, and sometimes we make that third camera work. But of the 4 places, there is the production stand where Mike D stands when we're shooting from my house. There really are only 2 seats for host and co-host, which is Amy and myself. And then there's another spot with a microphone that we have to turn a camera on kind of sideways, but that's where Eddie runs the cameras. So it's very much a broken down studio with only about half of us when we work from my house because there just aren't enough seats. Also, there's not enough parking in my house to have 8 people. But we really don't have enough microphones or places for someone to sit while doing the show. Because we have to have Amy here, we have to have Mike D here, and we have to have cameras run. And that's what Eddie's doing. And obviously, I have to be here. And why we record from my house sometimes, it could be many things. It could be I have a doctor's appointment at 11. And I understand that I can work till 10:48 from my house and get to the doctor's appointment on time rather than if I have to go from work, get out of the parking garage, and it takes me 25. Sometimes it's just issues with timing. Another example would be Dave Ramsey is going to do a BobbyCast with me. I don't know if it's next week or the week after. But when we do that, because of his radio show, he only was able to get to a studio at 10:30. Now, if I were to do the show downtown, which is the big studio, I would not be able to do the full show and then drive 20 minutes home, get set up, have Dave Ramsey. But what I can do is do the radio show till 10:15. It's over. Dave Ramsey slides right in. We do an hour. So a lot of that's timing stuff, and that's why a Morgan or a Lunchbox. Ray can't work here because he has to run the board, but that's why it's us. And also, sometimes with Eddie, we roll into podcasts right after, and it's just easier if Eddie hops into Amy's chair if we're doing one of the sports shows. But I appreciate that question. Next question, how do artists make money from concerts? There are a couple ways, and I'll use me as an example here. Way number one is I would say, hey, I'm going to tour. And so promoters would come to me and go, okay, we're going to pay you 75 cents if you'll come do this show. And so they're going to pay me 75 cents and they're going to rent the whole arena or they're going to rent the theater, and they'll pay $1. So they have $1.75 in right now, and they're going to try to make $2. So I'm getting my guarantee of 75 cents. They're paying their $1 to rent the place, and then they're going to try to make at least $2 on all in. So they're just trying to make more than they're spending. But that's really what it is. It's a guarantee from a promoter. At least that's how I got money from my shows. Now, you could sign an overall deal if you're a big artist, like with a Live Nation or something, and they go, we'll give you $10 million, and you do 14 shows for us. You still got to get yourself to and from, there's still all the costs, but you can take an overall deal for like an entire tour as well. But that's really the two ways that I'm familiar with, that artists that are mid or big, you get a guarantee. And so that's the money you're getting from the promoter. And then the promoter is trying to make money from ticket sales. Now, there is a point, too, in my ticket sales where if I hit like over 85%, I would then get a percentage of anything over 85%. So I hope I explained that good, but that's kind of how you get paid. Now, there are also, when you're starting out, you can just get the door. It's like, I will play here and I'll take the door and you get the alcohol. There are a lot of little scenarios like that. Or a bar can just pay you like $200 and then you make tips. Or you just make tips. There are all those ways. I feel like that's pretty good. Here's one from Leah Rose. When did you realize you kept calling Dusty by the name Bradley on the last podcast? Yeah, I'll explain this because I did it one other time too. Bradley was my dog before Dusty. We had been talking about Bradley on the show because that was the dog that my stepdad said they had to give away to his buddy at the farm. Turns out that wasn't true. And I just had Bradley on my mind whenever I was talking about Dusty. But I appreciate all the messages. I got 10 million of them. What kind of music do you listen to the most? I think we all have our familiar music from when we were like 15 to 22, that if we're not listening to new music, we just kind of go to it. And for me, it's mostly John Mayer, Counting Crows. Like I have a whole list of early Casey Musgraves type stuff. But that's kind of it. There's moods that I get into that's like classic rock moods. And so I've got a playlist for that. And I could kind of just show you some of these playlists that I have. But I've got like a 90s pop rock playlist that I listen to a lot. And one that I've even put together myself. I've got a 70s and 80s acoustic list that I've put together for me, like when I'm working. It's Tom Petty, Free Fallin', Fleetwood Mac, Landslide, Eagles, like 4 songs, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen fan, but I do have I'm on Fire jam. So kind of that. If I'm just sitting at my computer working, it's kind of that. It's like a 60s, 70s, a little bit of 80s acoustic. But if it's artist-based, it's John Mayer, Counting Crows, or Casey Musgraves. How do you arrive at show content each day? I keep a note app in my phone. And I know you guys that are listening, you won't be able to see this. But so on my phone, I have all of these. And so I have one tab that says Lots to Say. And I keep notes. Now, we just finished recording Lots to Say, so I've exhausted a lot of the notes. But Lots to Say is my NFL show I do with former NFL quarterback Matt Castle. And I have notes. Shooter Sanders not wanting to be a Raven. What's it like first week as a backup, now starter? Because that happened with the Bengals, and also that happened with Matt Castle because he's the guy that went in after Tom Brady got hurt. I have the Kansas City Chiefs schedule. So this is for one show. And I constantly keep notes inside each of these areas. So another one would be the BobbyCast, which is what I'm doing now. I have so many notes on this. I have one note about a radio station, and I'm not sure what city it was in, because stations will do liners sometimes, and they'll, like sometimes there's like Bob FMs, like Bob FM, we love to eat Wheaties, and they just say weird stuff, and that's all fun. But there was one country station that was like, at least our morning guy doesn't wear a cardigan every day. And I was like, obviously that's at me. I just didn't understand it. Like, what's wrong with a cardigan? And secondly, this is my longest bit ever. Every day for a year at work, I've worn a cardigan. I don't think I've ever worn a cardigan in my life. until I just decided one day I was going to wear a cardigan every day for a year. It's my longest bit. It's not even that funny. I just love doing it now. Also, it's so much easier because I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear. I have like 20 cardigans. Some of them nice, some of them not so nice. And because we record, sometimes I wear the same cardigan like 3 days in a row, so you don't know which day I recorded. But I didn't really understand the station making the joke about our guy doesn't wear cardigans. Like, in no way am I insulted by that. So you just made me feel like you're talking about me, which makes me feel good because that means I'm on your mind. Like, if you were to make fun of my looks or something, at least I would respect that and go, oh, okay, they're taking a shot at me. They're making fun of me. Yeah, that's a weird one, though. Also, in the BobbyCast notes, I've got song lyrics that I thought were interesting. I've got a list of the best lead singers. I have all these little stories because I like historical facts, and I like to write on how they affect me based on decisions I've made in my life. And I'll give you one here. This is, you're going to think this is so boring maybe. The story of Ulysses S. Grant and the power of no reaction. And what's funny is, this is kind of what I was talking about just a minute ago. And I didn't pull it up for this reason. But when Ulysses S. Grant was a president, he was not the most polished guy. He was not a great speaker. He didn't love politics. And a lot of people criticized him for that, and sometimes to his face. One story goes that a man insulted him in public in front of a lot of people. And he did it to provoke him, wanting to get a response to show that he was weak. I think most people, most politicians would have snapped back. They would have argued. They would have defended themselves for sure. But Grant, he didn't do that. He sat back. He always smoked a cigar. So he continued to smoke a cigar. And the guy just kept ranting. And so when the guy finally stopped, because you can only talk for so long, Grant looked at him and said, you know what? I agree with you. And then Grant walked away. It drove the guy bananas. And when I read this story, I was like, dang, that's awesome. But one, it's so hard to do. Two, Grant had every right to clap back. He had power. He was smarter than this dude. He could have had somebody else do the clapping for him, but he didn't. He was freaking president, the power that you have as president. So he had the power, the platform, he had the authority, but he chose silence. Not to get defensive, not to fight. And the thing is, people noticed. They noticed he wasn't reactionary. They remembered that he was calm even though someone was trying to trigger him. And so just me talking about that cardigan thing, because I didn't really plan to talk about it in this order, that makes me think about that. And we also live in a world where everybody wants a last word or the last word, or they want the mic drop, or they want the viral comeback. But I think a lot of times the strongest move is no move at all, because you're giving someone the satisfaction of knowing they get to you. And I think the takeaway with this story for me is that you don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes the most powerful response to negativity really is no response at all. I'm not a cigar smoker, but metaphorically speaking, just keep smoking your cigar, keep moving forward, and don't worry about other people making fun of your cardigans. That's what I think. I had a friend call me yesterday in the artist world, and he's like, hey, this other artist is provoking me. And you know me, I love theatrical conflict. We did a whole episode on what's happening right now with Zach Bryan and Gavin Adcock, and that's funny to me because it ain't real. It's real to them right this second, but it's not real life real. And I've predicted that in like 3 years they're going to do a song together, maybe before that. And he said, I got a text from this person who's also an artist, and they're talking garbage. Like, what do I do? And I said, well, do you want to do something? They were like, not really. I said, are you offended? Not really. Will it bother you if you don't say something? They said, not really. I said, then say nothing, because it's going to drive them the craziest if you do nothing to them provoking you. And so he did. And he's so much going to win this little battle of, it's not even really a battle. It's a one-sided battle. But I've been in a lot of these little skirmishes, so I do feel like I have good advice when it comes to that. But sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all. I'll give you one more. And this is the answer to your question, how do I do my content? I keep it all in tabs. And I'm constantly filling it. If I got an idea, I go, what tab do I put it in? This is called, let's call it 7 near deaths and a lottery ticket. So there was this guy from Croatia named Frane. Some people say he's the unluckiest man ever. Some people say he's the luckiest man ever. And it all depends at your perspective towards Frane. So the story goes, he survived a lot of disasters. Now listen to this. His train derailed into a river. That's not his fault. He's not driving the train. But he's on a train. It goes into the river. He lives. Some other people don't, but he lived. A plane he was on ran off the tarmac, and it was basically a plane crash. Now, it wasn't one that was in the air that crashed, but people got hurt. He was in a plane crash, a plane incident. He lived. He was in a bus crash. A bus fell off the side of a cliff. He lived. He was in a car accident. He got hit by a truck. He was in another accident where he skidded off a mountain road but somehow landed in a tree and walked away. All in all, this guy, Frane, had 7 near-death experiences in total. So, extremely unlucky guy. Had some injuries for sure, but didn't die. And then after all that, he won the lottery. He won millions of dollars in the lottery. So this Frane dude who's been in all these accidents, has almost died all these times, very unlucky, wins the lottery. Now, you hear that story and it makes you wonder, was he cursed? Was he blessed? I mean, both sides are true. Yeah, he was cursed. All these things happened to him. Most were out of his control, all the crashes, all the near deaths. But he did hit the lottery, and that is unbelievable luck. And I think that's a lot like life. I mean, most of us don't go through 7 near-death experiences. I think I've had 3, and I think that's more than the normal person. But we do all deal with things that feel like setbacks stacked on setbacks, and it's just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to dig out of this. Where it does feel a bit like the world's against you. But old Frane, what his story kind of shows is that the hard stuff might be what puts you in the position for something amazing down the road. Like, had he not had all those incidents, maybe it wouldn't have put him in a place to where he even went to the store that day, to where he maybe needed something for the store because his neck hurt. So he went to the store and bought a lottery ticket while he was at the store. So the lesson is this: if you see yourself as lucky or unlucky, that's true, because it's usually about the perspective that you choose. I mean, some people only see the crashes and they go, oh my God, I can't believe that dude almost died 7 times. Some people only see that he won the lottery and they're like, oh my God, what a lucky guy to live through all those and then win the lottery. And both are absolutely true. And the real luck, because I'm not a big luck guy, is just making it through long enough to see what's waiting on the other side. And even Frane, probably still waiting. But if you see that as very lucky, yep, you're right. If you see that as very unlucky, yep, you're right there too. So to answer your question, and I'm just pulling from this, I've also got like a music list. So I keep all of everything into my phone organized on the Notes app. It's not even like a crazy cool app or anything. Let me see, there's one other question here. Your easiest friendship to maintain. This is interesting because I was just talking on the radio show about what I call sleeper cell friendships. And I don't think it's the same thing. I think all friendships take different levels of maintenance. If it's somebody you talk with a lot, if it's somebody that you know is like your hardcore friend, but you don't get to see them because of proximity. But a sleeper cell in like terrorist organizations are groups of people for a cause that aren't working for the cause unless they're called to do so. So like there was a television show called The Americans, and they were Russian spies, and they came over, they were just living a normal American life. But if they were reached out to, they had to like basically wake up and work for Russia. And that can mean a lot of really bad things. That can mean just spying. That can mean killing. But you're just doing your own thing until they wake you up to be the terrorist organization again. Now, it doesn't have to be that in this instance, but I have sleeper cell friendships where I have friends that I know that I haven't talked to in a year, in maybe even 2 years at this point. But I know if I called right now, I'd be like, hey, I need you. It's like the sleeper cell waking up. And they're like, yep, I'm here. Whatever you need, I will walk through a wall. Because I think I'm that to friends too. I think there are friends of mine that I haven't talked to in a couple or few years. They live in a different part of the country. But that doesn't mean we're less friends. We may not get to spend as much time together. We may not communicate as much, but there's always that thread of whatever you need, whenever you need it. All you got to do is wake the sleeper cell up, and I am there. So all friendships deserve maintenance. I really do enjoy the sleeper cell friends, though. I got a couple of those. That's it. That's it for this episode. Thank you, guys. Thanks to Randy Jackson. I know he was sick. That sucked. I felt bad for him, so we cut him early. Thanks to Emma Slater. Hope she does awesome on Dancing with the Stars. Thanks to you guys. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't mind subscribing, that would be awesome. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and we will see you guys next week. All right, bye, everybody.